So, guys, I do want to talk about ROH, and this is actually really sad. But the former president of ROH, he actually said that with when he was running AEW, when he was running ROH, it was like a really big deal, and it was actually something that people paid attention to. But in Tony Khan's ROH, like nobody really talks about it anymore, and it's just there to be there, and there's really no attraction towards it. And I do agree with that for many reasons. Like I've kind of said before, and I'll say it again, that really they have to kind of use ROH as two things. It should be like ROH talent showing what they can do and transitioning over to the main roster. Like for example, if you have Dalton Castle and he has great matches, you have to be like, okay, now ROH guy, we're gonna put you on these pay-per-views and we're gonna see what you do. Or if you do something like you look at the infantry, you look at like the infantry and they're having great matches and they're not necessarily, and I think they're AEW people, but they're kind of like in this developmental role. They're doing a great match. Why not bring them over to the main roster? Why not use it as a bit of a developmental, but also a place for ROH talent? And then also if you have like a bunch of wrestlers that are doing a great job and they have no room on Dynamite or Rampage or Collision, you put them in ROH. Like for example, what would happen if you actually did something with Nyla Rose? What would happen if you did stuff with Athena? But what would happen if you also did stuff, like with other wrestlers that that could be bigger deals. So, so that's kind of like what I think the purpose of ROH should be. And like I've said before, that I think that the rule every single year is that at All In they should defend three titles. It should be the ROH men's heavyweight title, the women's championship, and it should also be another title, maybe like a tag team or a trios title, just to say that if you're in ROH, you actually are in a situation where you're like, okay, you know what, I have an opportunity to be on a really big show, and I have an opportunity to maybe even have, or there could be a show where it is like what they had Destination X, where it could be the ROH champion versus the AEW champion, but the title gets vacated. Just like they do a Destination X with the X Division champion versus the TNA champion. And like what I liked about that one is, at least with TNA wrestling, they've actually had times when when people have won the championship. Like you had Austin Aries do it one year. And I've not really followed TNA wrestling after that, but you did have Austin Aries do it one year, because I think one year they actually said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to keep it on Bobby Roode. And they kind of do things where they just don't change the titles that much in TNA wrestling, during the Hogan era. So I was happy they at least did that, to say like, okay, anybody can actually get that. But I do feel that that if you add those stipulations, that's really, really important. And as I said, maybe Bryan Danielson could be the manager of ROH, or you can have other wrestlers that are like towards retirement or want to just like not really wrestle anymore, but want to be a veteran, want to kind of help make AEW better. So it's like, what I've said about ROH, that I think in some cases that it's really a vanity project and they really don't know how to make money with this. They know how to have some shows, but what do you have Tony Khan saying something like he's very happy for the 3,000 people that actually showed up to one of the ROH shows last year, and I believe it was in Texas. That's very embarrassing. Like if you're in a 12,000 seat arena and it's 25% full, that's extremely egregious. When you're having a show this year, next week, and their ticket prices are $55 maximum, that's really just egregious. Why would you, be proud of that? That's embarrassing. That's like, when I was a kid, I got 55 on a test in second grade, and my dad made me practice my spelling, all weekend, really, because I shouldn't be proud of 55. You shouldn't be proud of a 25% full capacity arena. And that's also another issue that, I don't think Tony cares that much, or he's spread too thin, really, that he actually doesn't care. So I think with ROH, there's a lot of stuff that they can do, really. And I think that, to reiterate, they can just make ROH feel it has some consequences. You can actually do, like, as I said, like a Destination X type of show, like the ROH men's title and women's title is defended against the AEW champion at least once a year. You can say, okay, well, we're going to at least have like 3 belts defendant at Wembley Stadium or the All In show, like the over 100,000 seat arena show. Like the All In's going to be their WrestleMania or their Bound for Glory type of thing. Really, that I think would be good. The next thing is that you have to think about, what ROH should be. What's his identity? Should it be a place where you bought all these ROH wrestlers and you can transition them over to the main roster and make money with them? Should it be a developmental for wrestlers that are young blood really, and they really want to showcase what they do, and they want to be there weekly, but there's no time on Dynamite, so they keep on just showing what they can do, like the Infantry or Top Flight, or you can look at the Undisputed Kingdom where they they didn't get that much exposure in WWE. Like some people like Matt Taven or Roderick Strong, but at least they're there in ROH because they care. They want to matter. They don't want to be sitting home on a paycheck. And then you also look at wrestlers on the AEW roster like Nyla Rose or Athena or Mark Briscoe, even though I'll consider him an ROH guy, where they're actually doing stuff with ROH because they're kind of like, Taya Valkyrie, John Morrison, where they're actually like, AEW doesn't have time for us, but we actually are going to, make the best with what we got, really, So it should be those people, and then it's like, okay, well, let's say if Adam Copeland gets injured, and which he is right now, and he's going to be out for a couple of months, So what happens if you have like a vacancy and you say, okay, well, Mark Briscoe's going to have it, or what would happen if you say, okay, now the Maximum Male models are in AEW? So what would happen if you say, okay, with Dalton Castle? Dalton Castle has a very metrosexual gimmick. What would happen if they had a team called Team Metrosexual, and they actually just took over AEW? And went after the trios title, and then you can kind of advocate metrosexuality as a thing. The same way, like with the Acclaim winning the titles, it was a big thing for LGBTQ. Or when Swerve advertised himself the first black champion, definitely that was. While it helped everybody, it definitely helped a small group like black people, because obviously it shows that. That representation is important, but obviously people working hard to achieve something to deserve that standing out is important, or even like Nyla Rose. But the point of it is that there's a lack of treating it like a big deal, really. There's a lack of personal care, but I also think that, as I said, I think the big issue is that Tony spreads himself way too thin, because like I said, he has like 3 big shows this month. He has blood. I'll even say 4 big shows. He just had the last weekend of June was Forbidden Door, and then 4 weeks from that, 3 or 4 weeks is like Blood and Guts, and then in that same week there's Death Before Dishonor, and then there's Battle of the Belts, and that's a period of like less than 3. That's like 3 to 4 weeks, So obviously, in less than a month's time, really, he has 4 big shows, and I know Blood and Guts is going to be good. The match is going to be really awesome. But quite honestly, that's a 50, because what about Death Before Dishonor? What about Battle of the Belts? I don't think those are going to be bangers. I think you're just going to throw people together. And as I said, the ticket price is $55. So Tony Khan made his brain be like, okay, you know what? I spread myself too thin, but the show is, not that good, really. I really don't care, because he might have that mentality. Like, he really doesn't care, because he's like, okay, well, I just charge a really cheap price, so I don't need to go all out. I don't need to kind of show, okay, this is what ROH can do. Maybe there's some people on this show who could be AEW stars one year, or maybe there's a few people on the show that when I make my Wembley Stadium tournament, when I make my Wembley Stadium card, they should be on it. Or what would happen if we said something like, okay, well, look at these all these wrestlers. There's like 10 of them that actually are doing a great job. What if I had a ladder match at Wembley Stadium, and the winner of that faces Mark Briscoe for the ROH title at a future show? Or what would happen if I had that at All Out, really? But at least kind of give them some shine, really, to say that the ROH people actually do matter. Or you do that with the men, and then you do have the women's too as well. So I really think that. There's definitely a lot of things that, AEW can do better with ROH. I just think that, as I said, Tony spreads himself too thin. I think he bought it as a vanity project thing. And sometimes just because you buy something to show that you care doesn't mean you actually care, or doesn't mean you're going to execute it with care.